Kia ora everybody, what's up? It is robett, and I am joined by, we're going straight to the top dogs of banking now. We've hit telcos, done. See you later, Spark. See you, Vodafone. See you, Voyager. We're now getting into banking. CEO of SBS Bank. How are you, my friend? Shaun Drylie, what's up, dude?
Kia ora. Fantastic, actually. 2 weeks in lockdown, but I actually had a week before I came into close contact with somebody else who had coronavirus. So it's been a long haul at home. Good though, doing well.
So where's the pad at? Where are you at? Are you in Auckland or
Well,
in Invis?
Invercargill. So SBS was birthed 151 years ago in good old Southland.
That's so sick.
So yes.
So how tight are you with Shadbolt? Are you just like full boys?
Oh, we're good mates. Everybody's good mates with Tim. He's certainly an icon down here.
So epic. So SBS, you're saying been around for 150 years?
Yeah, 150 years.
It's mega.
So yeah, a little building society that grew up into a nationwide brand. We own 3 subsidiary companies: a finance company, Finance Now, a wealth management company, Fans, and an insurance company, South Shore. So no, it's full service. It's still a smaller New Zealand bank, but we have all the challenges that all banks have at the moment, but we're up for it.
It's pretty crazy, eh? Just the obviously on a banking side, you know, I'm not the gnarliest mathematician of all time, but I do know that when you've got an economy rolling around with billions and billions of dollars, and overnight it goes to zero, everything is affected, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How early was it that did you think or feel that this might be a thing that New Zealand would have to face? Like, were you in the secret Illuminati text club with Jacinda and the crew, or is this you have your insiders that were in government were like, hey, this thing might be coming? Like, at what point did you start to think that you were about to have something pretty big on your hands?
We started to do some early modelling, probably late January, early February. But to be frank, there were no secret handshakes given as to say this thing is this train is just about to come into town. And even up until a week or a week and a half prior to the level 3 status, I was up with my executive team taking them through some scenarios, and they were saying, Drylie, stop being so sensationalist with where you think this thing could go. And as it turned out, it went further. We were doing some scenarios to say 50% of the team need to be home. What the sort of impact on the economy could be, and then it got serious pretty quickly. So right up until a few days prior, there wasn't really too much in the way of warning, because it has happened globally at such a pace, hasn't it? Just incredible.
Yeah. So the logistically, where's SBS positioned? Like, how many branches, how many staff? Like, what was the layout that you had to sort of navigate through from a staffing perspective?
Yeah, about 300 people, 15 branches, 4 of those in the North Island, the rest pretty much in the South Island. And it was quite a military exercise, actually. We had very few people that could work from home and were working from home. So within about 3 or 4 days, we really had to lift and shift all of our branch people to home, all of our contact centre people to home, all of our IT team home, and so we were planning to get about 50% out within about a week. We ended up getting about 90% out within 3 days. Big shout out to the telcos, the broadband, and that has really assisted businesses like us to continue to operate. I was just chatting with the team about an hour ago. We have a daily catch up, and they were saying that most teams are sitting at about 80 to 90% productivity to a productivity level. So pretty incredible, really, when everybody's so used to working from work.
And is this first time remote workers, and they're at 80 to 90%?
Yeah, in the most part, yeah, incredible. They have to dance around at home. Not everybody has has a quiet home with many rooms that you can hide away in. So I think there's
Yeah.
been some interesting interactions as to who gets the kitchen table and who gets the computer at home. But
Yeah.
apart from those dances, I think the technology has just worked superbly well. You know,
Has
these are cool people taking calls from our members. Through their mobile phones or through the telephony systems. And dealing with confidential discussions with very secure environments. Incredible, really.
It has been really positive to see that no one's really flinched on questioning if the technology could be able to withstand and hold up publicly listed customers, companies, billion-dollar entities, all these different bits and pieces. 10 years ago, we would have been stuffed, like actually stuffed. It is remarkable that we've got the infrastructure, not only from a physical thing with all the lines that Chorus have put down and the telcos doing the free data, and every little piece has sort of seemed to come together for the most part for most of these businesses to be able to flip. So what I was going to ask you, you're obviously in the banking game and you know this money shit pretty well. When an entire world's economy goes to zero and pushes pause, it's not stop, it's pause, right? But because it's been paused, a lot of them have stopped. How does it was just the tap went off, gone burgers. Each different countries at different levels of lockdown. We're obviously at a 4, which is, I guess, let's say we're 4. How does it start to work from a economy perspective to sort of kick that back off? Like, what does that journey look like to go from a 4 to a 0 and then the rebuild back up? Like, how does it all work? Because I guess we've never seen this happen before, and I don't know if anyone's got the actual answer. So how do you maybe predict that this thing plays out in terms of as far as money flow goes?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. I've been around banking now for 34 years. There's been a couple of different crises that have played out over that time. Not all of them have stopped. Where there's been a slowdown, but we've had 10 years of very, very strong, 10 years plus of very strong growth, haven't we? So, that wealth has built, that demand is there, latent anyway, and the supply chains are there and working as well. So, once you turn that tap back on, things will go. Now, as you rightly point out, different industries and different countries will go at different speeds. We obviously have a strong connection with the Queenstown market. Tourism is obviously going to be the international tourism anyway is probably going to be, not there for the next 12 months. So that environment's obviously different to an environment which is more manufacturing or agricultural or services based that has that demand there latent anyway. So once you actually unlock the doors and step back out and into the shops, people have still got a lot of people have still got the income. A lot of people have still got the wealth and pent up demand to go out and get things moving. And that's really our responsibility as banks as well, to make sure that we continue to invest and continue to support people so that they can get out and keep the economy going. The worst thing that could happen is everybody hunkers down and goes into hibernation post this. The best thing that can happen is everybody says, right, well, that was a bit of a bad hangover from that night out, but we'll get back into it and kickstart the economy, get back to work, maybe change the way we work, but get out and spend. And banks have got the capital, and which is the cushioning effect. They can withstand a heck of a lot of pressure on the economy. They've got the liquidity, which means that people can access their funds to be able to sort of re-stimulate the market. And what I've seen over the last few weeks is a huge amount of camaraderie and solidarity with the banks. I mean, we've been on calls daily with the bank CEOs, talking about how we can work together, how we can support the government, how the government can support us, how we can support our customers, how we look after our people. These events do bring out the best in businesses and people as well, and you start to remove the masks that perhaps people sit sit behind with their titles and with their organisations. And, it comes back to a bit of humanitarianism and people looking to look out for each other, which has been really good.
Yeah, telco, that was one of the first things that when I was interviewing Jason Paris, CEO at Vodafone, was saying it is straight away, all the telcos are on the same page. Right? All right, let's just unlock this out, free data, let's get everyone communicating, let's do that. And it is cool seeing, yes, there's, I call it co-opetition amongst the ecosystem, but when it's on the same page for New Zealand, it's definitely, New Zealand for New Zealanders, for New Zealanders for all New Zealanders, which is cool. It's quite interesting. Yeah, the just the cooperation that's existed at all levels across councils, governments, corporates. It's going to open a lot of people's eyes to what genuine collaboration can do with speed as well, right? Like, I'm sure it's probably been pretty eye-opening for many people that haven't been through this before. I guess no one has really.
Yeah, but it's that responsibility that you feel for your country and your and I suppose just for banks anyway, the economic success of the country and people within it. I mean, there's still going to be a lot of pain to move through. I mean, a lot of the relief has been reasonably temporarily sort of given, and people will be working through it in different ways how they're going to sort of manage through this. I mean, as a business ourselves, our biggest focus has been business continuity. How do we keep things moving? How do we ensure our members are looked after? How do we protect our people through this time? But you very quickly move into what I'm terming the next phase, which is about business resilience. How do you frame your business in the right way? How do you take the lessons from the last 4 weeks or however long it's going to be and put that into your thinking going forward? Because there's some benefits and some learnings that we as a business will take from this situation. And the business resilience phase economically maybe 1-2 years. So it's about helping things go, but understanding that it will be still dampened for some time to come. And then how do you set yourself up for that last phase, which I'm saying business performance? How do you come back out of that period so that you actually make the most? It's fascinating. Yeah, so we're sort of working in different phases.
Louise Aitken, who was talking before, CEO at the Akina Foundation, was talking about this idea, when our domestic economy, and I brought up, hyper-local resiliency. How do you obviously tourism is going to be on pause for a while until borders kick off. F&B, cafes, bars, retail services back in thing. Like, you're probably actually right, because as soon as they can go back, I'm sure everyone with a cafe is going to be back open within 12 seconds. Everyone's going to be catching up for a whole bunch. Bars are going to pop off. Like, do you see? How do you see the dominoing back up?
Yeah, I'm not an economist, but I think that those people that can weather this period of time will come out of it with a lot of demand for their businesses. And I was I've got a good mate that I work with who owns a cafe as well, and we were chatting the other day, and he said, "Oh, well, what if people, the unemployment rate increases and trade drops back by 10%? But if the amount of cafes reduced by 15%, then he will find that he's in a stronger position because of that." So there I suppose will be industries and businesses that will have less capital and be less able to manage through this early phase. The banks will be there to support where they can. But some may decide, look, it's just not worth our while, you taking further debt on and so forth. So there will be a bit of a reframing, I think, in many situations. Hopefully not too much. And as we were discussing before, for some people over this period who are still being paid, there is probably not the discretional spend that was happening prior to lockdown. So there will be some discretional spend that people will be able to put back into the market that they haven't done for a while. I don't think you'll catch up that 4 weeks, and there will be people who are impacted financially. And as I said before, different cities, different towns, different industries will be affected, quite differently. So it's very hard to sort of blanket it. But if you were to say, cafes, bars, as long as the health crisis piece is seen to go away, I know as a bit of an extrovert myself, after 3 weeks with the family, as much as I love them all, you are
want the beers with the
hanging
boys.
You are hanging out for some other company, and
I get it.
I think that will kick it off.
I when you're talking about the potential drop off there, reminds me of a quick story. So there's a family jeweler here in the States. Was around for 30 years, Milner's Jewelers, and during the recession, 6 of the other 7 local jewelers all went out of business except for him. And his ninja move was he played golf and he talked good shit, and he knew he was the dude, right? Brad the jeweler, and but it was quite interesting because as you were saying that, I'm just thinking, it's almost going to be this weird filter of those who have that authentic community connection with actual relationships are gonna almost be this crazy filter where you're gonna want to go to that cafe and support Steve or Mary or whatever it may be. So there's going to be this weird kind of pacty localism that is going to happen to certain people that actually some others that maybe not won by default, or maybe they were just nice to have, not actually there was no depth with the quality of the service or the customer experience. So in a weird way, almost that goodwill brand that's kind of been built up over however long they've been going, it hopefully pays dividends, or you'd hope so, but I could potentially see that happening as well.
Oh, look, I mean, it's interesting. And as you were talking about that example, I was thinking of an example here with a local coffee place. They put free coffees on prior to the lockdown just to acknowledge their customers. When I was in solitary confinement for that week prior, my wife was popping in for my coffee. And they were saying it must be pretty tough for Shaun, so here's a coffee on us. And these are small businesses that are not overly making a lot of money, who are supporting people, and making a real statement about the importance of community, and that loyalty. It's not done to buy loyalty, but that loyalty that it creates is just incredible.
But also, they might be hitting you up for $1 million loan for a lower interest after the end of this. So they might be like, "Oh, yo, give Shaun the extra marshmallows on the mocha." so coming back out of this, what do you think you've been able to? I mean, even just that the efficiency rate of the staffing, that's incredible for never have doing that before. How do you think the future of work is going to change after this for most type of businesses? Do you feel that most people will go back to how it was done, or do you think the Zoom calls and the Google Hangouts and the Teams and just all this other digital shit's going to seep its way back into a new world? What's your take on that from a services side?
Yeah, I saw something in might have been LinkedIn the other day. It said who transformed your business? What was the part that was played in your business to digitally transform it? Was it the CEO? Was it the CTO? Was it C19? And I think that the comment that was being made there was that businesses have been forced to change the way in which they approach things. Members and customers who probably pushed back on digital technology as a way to interface now need to do that, and are starting to create some new behaviours. And because of that, we're now a lot more open to it than we were. The laggards of the world are now starting to see it as a real viable option to communicate and to do business, etc. I spent the last few years trying to move our travel and accommodation budget back, by 10, 15%. Well, COVID-19 has moved that back by 100%, and people are now having interactions that are probably more productive and just as effective through the virtual piece. Now, doesn't stop the need for human connection. I was just speaking to one of our branch team members this morning in Queenstown, who said, my favourite day of the week is Thursday, when I can go in, get in my car, drive into work, put my uniform on, see my colleagues, interact with my customers. That's my favourite day of the week now. And it's basically, humans need humans, don't they? But it will change a lot of the ways in which we do things. And even our contact centre, there's no reason why mums can't be at home fielding calls. These were big challenges for organisations like ours to try and coax and people into thinking like that. This has done it for us. How we do business, the way in which our customers and our members want to do business with us, I think will change somewhat. And that's changed a lot over the years. I mean, I remember when I was a teller back in 1986, having queues of people out the door to withdraw money and to deposit money, and you'd have to check signatures and that. Now there's very few people that come into branches. So technology has moved a lot of that transactional need, but the higher value add interactions now are becoming a lot more, are being done through technology a lot more effectively, and businesses like ours are starting to invest a lot more money in the in that more complex area, which is good.
I can guarantee if you told your board that you'd have a 90% productivity rate after going totally virtual within a week, they would have said you're on Mars. It's funny how it changes when people want it to.
Well, that's how. What have you been doing for the last 3.5 years, Drylie? When you have to change, it's amazing how you find the ability to do it. And that's probably the other call out. I mean, it's amazing to me how people get behind each other and customers and members and business in times like this. I mean, there's a huge amount of adrenaline and determination and camaraderie through these times. And the challenge now for us is how do we, when people sort of, it's almost a bit of a state of stimulation high. How do you then manage into that BAU sort of phase? Which is could be a bit of a flat period for people. They've had and that's it. Well, I mean, we're essential services. Not everybody's essential services, obviously, and those people out there that have are at home knowing that each day that goes by, their expenses are continuing to run on and the income's not coming through. That's pretty challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, the when everyone gets back, the BAU 2.0, I'm really interested in. How many of these leaders and CEOs of these different organizations have start to re-question everything? Do we go 4 days a week? Do we go 3 days and go virtual? Do we, exactly to your point before, Shaun, is do we allow different core operators to potentially be able to work from home ongoing, and then they don't need to mess about with the traffic and have the cars? And there's going to be all these kind of flow-on effects that I see the questions at least being asked now, because in a weird way, the same way, what John Kirwan did for mental health was he was a Trojan horse that became the vehicle to talk about the thing. And I'm wondering with this, is that it's actually giving a lot of ammunition to CEOs to go to their boards to be braver on certain things. It's giving management to staff and employees to employer, and just it's forcing all these kind of good conversations, which is going to be shifting to. I'm hoping it's a BAU 2.0, which is a bit more reimagined and a bit braver maybe. Aaron Coop. Good interview. Go Southland. There you go. Oh, Coops is in there. Good on you, Coops. Joy Miller says, kia ora, Shaun, are you essentially optimistic that New Zealand will move forward with the right approach? Or will we revert to what we were doing before? I guess it's kind of similar to that 2.0, 1.0 thing, right?
Yeah. Look, if you if you think of the service industry and so forth, I think that there's a lot of change that's happened anyway, and there will be refinement, and there will be some step change. Absolutely. I mean, as a nation, I think we're very well placed, and we've done a remarkable job to date around just stemming the tide of spread. We're lucky in the sense that our borders are very firm, aren't they, with the water that we've got around us. So, as a manufacturing and as an agricultural, country, I think that we're well placed. And the way in which the government's approached this, and even the banks with freeing up loans and so forth, it will be stimulated to a point. There will be a lag. There will be a bit of a hangover. I have no doubt about that. But we've only got to think about the last 11 years or so. It's just been growth has been so strong that you do need a bit of a reset period, and I think we'll come out of that reset period well.
What do you think what's the biggest risk for New Zealand, like New Zealand Inc. to the world after this? Obviously, I think I'm looking at it as this is a great opportunity if we can get back to business first and we're open for the world's business, all these other companies, blah, 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 all the rest of it. But from your side, what do you think the big, outside of obviously the health concerns and hopefully getting through that whole phase that the government's leading, what's New Zealand's biggest risk after this?
Oh, it's a big question. I suppose we are reliant on world markets, and if those world markets either hunker down and become more nationalistic, build their virtual walls around themselves, and don't encourage the free trade that was I think happening globally, the freeing up of borders, etc. I think that could create a risk to New Zealand. We are very dependent on world markets, and if those world markets don't open up or are shut down, where countries look to protect what they have themselves, we see it ourselves, and I encourage it. Buy New Zealand made. I mean, we're a New Zealand-based bank who are owned by our customers, and we would like more people to shop local as well. But if you then take that into global context, if Mr. Trump and others decide that it's all about protecting the USA and we're not taking trade in from others, and all countries take that approach, then I suppose New Zealand could find that challenging, and that would be a risk to us. We are very dependent on the world economy, and if the world doesn't get this pandemic or other pandemics under control, or take a very nationalistic, closed border approach to global trade, then I think that would have quite a big implication on us.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Shaun, because it's that we just talked about hyper local resiliency, but if everyone does the exact same thing, will it be these virtual wars because no one wants to mess with everyone else and everyone wants to be nationalized and resilient themselves and bring their own manufacturing back from China and give the jobs to the people, and yes, it costs more, but blah blah. I mean, the reality is I don't think any iPhones are coming to get built in America anytime soon for flipping $4,000 an iPhone, whatever it would end up turning out to be. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of these questions asked around that. And then it almost, same before, technology's, I think, on track now to be the second biggest export within, I think it's 18 months from now, I think.
Yeah.
And that opens up, it's just a lot of
Huge.
big strategic questions that need to get asked from all different types of businesses. I mean, tourism, the one I really feel for is tourism.
Yes.
I really feel for them.
I'm
on the board of Figure NZ with Stephen Ingham Hall, who's their CEO. I'm going to try and have him on the show when he's trying to navigate out of this thing. It's a tough one, especially the Queenstowns of the world, at least for the next little bit. How do they, I'm imagining one of those ideas is, I saw someone on Facebook put a thing up, as soon as this is done, I'm literally going to get a van. I'm going to drive around New Zealand twice because I haven't seen it and I need to. then you're like,
Yeah.
you wonder what type of, I guess, nationalism or Kiwi pride will come off the back of this to really back ourselves. But yeah, it's a good point that actually, yeah,
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think we are a resilient sort of a country and very positive, optimistic. I mean, I think, it'll be a case of us having to create some different ways of doing things. The tourism markets like your Rotoruas and your Queenstowns and so forth. We're going to have to. They're going to have to market themselves a little bit differently. But I mean, there is sometimes a little bit of a silver lining to some of these clouds. I mean, I was working with the mayor of Queenstown not that long ago around their housing shortages and the challenges that they face with Airbnbs removing houses off the market and people not having affordable housing to live in. There is some yin and yang. I know that for many it hurts, but some of this growth has removed supply, or there's been so much demand that it's been challenging for certain parts of the country to keep up with that demand. I think the reset is obviously far more damaging than positive, but it does show that sometimes things, there could be a bit of an equilibrium found, but very tough in Queenstown. I've seen it. Yeah. I mean, we're obviously closely connected with with a lot of our people there and a lot of our members there, and it's really just how everybody's asking the same question. How long and how deep? It's just it's just the unknown quantity. If everybody knew at some point this is what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, I think we'd all be a lot more comfortable, wouldn't we? But it's just that level of unknownness is creating some anxiety.
Yeah, that mental headspace can get in there.
Yeah.
So on that thing, on that note, you're a small business owner. You're stressed out. Your biggest partnership in anything is actually your relationship with your bank manager. If you're stressed now about you and your business, what advice would you give someone that's just financially looking like they're stuffed right now, but they know they need the help of the banks? What advice would you give them to like navigate this next thing, maybe with actions they could do, or the way to sort of approach it strategically to help them get through it better? Because everyone's in that same boat because it's been forced onto them, right? Where would you go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the first thing to remember is that banks are there to help you through the situation that you're facing at the moment. There is no value in the banks seeing you, both from a moralistic perspective, but even from a business context, seeing you've going through really tough times. So the bank, wherever possible, will assist you to sort of get through this immediate period of time. That might be, giving you a mortgage holiday or mortgage deferment, as they're calling it. Maybe just increasing your working capital for this period. Might be some other things to assist. But the biggest thing is to go in knowing that the bank really is there to assist you as a business partner through that. And if you go in knowing that, then you will feel a lot more confident to ask the questions. Banks at the moment are being, we've had about 6% of our home loan customers come to us and ask for some form of relief, whether it's interest only or whether it's capitalising their interest onto their loan for the next 6 months. And so same with small businesses. If you are finding it pretty tough, go and have a chat. The lines might be busy, but all banks are coming back in reasonable timeframes with good packages to support. And the most difficult thing would be for you to sort of just close the eyes and hope it goes away in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then open them and find that that conversation should have been had earlier. You'll find that communication tends to get you through, like any relationship. If you're communicating well, you'll find the other party is often more than willing to assist. If you go silent and hope it goes away, you might find that's a more difficult conversation down the track.
Yeah. So
Um,
can all banks? I mean, I don't know how. Never owned a bank, but I'm imagining when you've obviously got cash reserves to be able to get in and out. How much leeway do banks have? Like they can't obviously just tell every single customer, "Oh no, sweet, don't worry about it," because then they get screwed. How much leeway do banks actually have per? Is it obviously a case by case basis, but are there kind of thresholds of, if you turn over $1 million, there might be this sort of thing which you could be comfortable up to.
yeah,
Like how does that work? There's because that's probably a thing that I'm imagining every single small business owner would not know going to us or a bank of to know what
yeah,
the other
yeah,
side can and can't. It's like negotiating for a secondhand car, but you don't know how much they pay for it, but you know there's some wiggle room. You're trying to figure it out. Is
yes.
that kind of the way it works, or like how do they, how much leeway I guess
Okay.
could they get, or yeah.
Well, banks are like any businesses that they obviously want to get the money back that they lend, but they do have reserves to take losses. That the last 10, 11 years have been the best years that banks have had for many, many years as far as the loss ratios go. So our loss ratio is the lowest that it has been for 10 years because the economy has performed so well. So banks, the losses that banks have taken up until now have been at all-time record lows. So banks will be working out the likelihood that you will be able to repay. Now, for the next, my view anyway, for the next 3 months, nobody knows what's going to happen. So enabling you to kick the can down the road for 3 months isn't a bad thing from my perspective. Giving you some help, as long as the business is fundamentally sound, taking that stress away and saying, look, just add it to the loan or extend the overdraft or whatever, I think is a good way to approach it if you are feeling stressed. Because in 3 months' time, the world will probably be quite a different place in the sense of, lockdowns will have stopped. Things will be starting to get back up. My personal view is that to take a bit of relief away from yourself at the moment is going to be important, both from a just a mental health perspective, but also from a business point of view. So if you try and do it all yourself and do it without asking for help when you do need help, I think you're putting unnecessary pressure on yourself and your business. There are a few different options that have come out. I don't know whether your listeners will have seen those. There's the Business Finance Guarantee Scheme that the government has put in place for businesses that turn over between $250,000 and $80 million per annum.
It's a pretty mellow range.
Yeah, pretty yeah, there's a bit of room to move in that.
So basically, if you're breathing or you own 12 buildings.
Well, unfortunately, in my view, it's not low enough. 250,000 as far as a turnover isn't that high for a lot of businesses. If you think about your plumbers and one-man bands, it could be a bit lower. But what that scheme is the government said, banks, if you lend to these businesses, you can lend up to 500, I think 500K, $500,000 for 3 years. If you lend to these businesses and they don't repay, we will cover 80% of that debt. So that gives you, that will give you some comfort as a business that if you're between those turnover levels and there's a couple of sectors that aren't included. I think property companies, commercial property companies, and some agricultural businesses. But if you're within that range, know that your bank will be pretty much covered for the debt that they're going to lend to you. So the banks have got to get out of jail on that one through that government guarantee. What we're doing as banks as well, the New Zealand Banks Association, are working with the government and saying, look, not everybody fits within that, within that turnover level. So how about we look at other ways in which we can assist? And we're just New Zealand Banks Association and the government are just trying to work up other packages. But by way of example, robett, is you've got people being able to add, capitalise the interest to their business loans or to their consumer loans. Our consumer lending company, Finance Now, processed $3,500 loans today just to add the interest over the next 6 months at a good interest rate to help people and businesses through there. We've, as I said, we've processed 3% of all of our home loan customers have taken the mortgage deferment today, which, as I say, does kick the can down the road, but that might not be a bad thing to do. It might not be for everybody, but it just takes that immediate holy crap sort of moment away from people to think, okay, just let me breathe and focus on what's important at the moment, which I think is for many people who have been affected worthwhile considering.
Just that alone, to know that a bank will be more incentivized if they're covered up to 80%, it just gives, if you're a small business that needs that help, go flip and ask, because then it's just going to take that breath off, like, shit, okay, if I've negotiated with my landlord and I don't need to stress on that, okay, and I've got the subsidy from the government to help my employees for the next thing, okay, park that. But there's no, what it feels like anyways, there's no documented visual framework of what a business owner is thinking about to know all these pieces that are actually covered. Like, okay, this piece, green, you're good. This piece, green. Okay, a bit of orange here and maybe some HR, whatever, boom. But there's, and high risk, bank, whatever. And all of a sudden, just that alone, I mean, that's got to just take a huge weight off. It's a good point,
Robert. I think it, and that's why I'm really impressed with what you're doing, mate. I think education and simple education at this stage is really useful for people. It's hard to go and navigate and find the things that you qualify for or don't qualify for. And I think some central repositories or education tools would be really useful. I mean, I stood at home doing a little Facebook video the other day with my 14-year-old boy behind the camera, just trying to explain what this mortgage deferment meant. Because for some people, what the heck is mortgage deferment? Does it mean that the bank's not going to actually ask for your money back? Or, so there can be a bit of confusion with some of the tools that are coming out. And we do have a role, I agree, to educate people far better. Mortgage deferment piece for the residential investment property owners. I mean, you can add that to your investment property loans, through that mortgage deferment scheme as well. So it's all those little hooks and tricks that I think we need to set out a little bit clearer. Yeah, it's a good point.
The problem is when you sit in the middle and you've got a 360 view on your business, because that is your bubble, like your world, your thing. And if each of these little pieces, the mortgage deferment piece here and they're like little spokes that come out of it, but you don't have the full optics, and you've got to like hope that all of their different marketing campaigns hit you at all the different times, then try and figure out on your head. And like me, I guess because I'm visual, I'm just like, this feels like A, the info's probably out there for a bunch of it. B, this could almost be some flipping simple AI-driven chatbot to say, are you in what type of industry? This. Do you have employees? Yes or no? Boom. Like a flipping, you can trace this thing down and then figure it all out. And I'm sure you could. Mate, this is a flipping layup. Someone listening to this is flipping do that shit, because I could guarantee you that's a massive piece, right?
What we're doing, Robert, is we're putting up a hub ourselves. SBS Bank is putting, we're powering up. We don't want it to be ours, because the minute you start to think you own it, it becomes a bit partisan, and nobody wants to use it if they don't belong there. So we're setting up a hub. It's called Mutually Helpful to do exactly that.
That's cool.
And for people to come in and just get, we're working with the Southern Chamber of Commerce. I've spoken to I'm on the board there. I've spoken to the CEO there. Let's get a bit of a repository that helps people to go to actually navigate, the so what now sort of piece. And I like your chatbot idea. I think that's pretty cool. So, we just need to be, education through this time will remove a lot of anxiety, and people, the government, I've been impressed with the government's response. There will be further packages and offerings, I'm sure, but sometimes it's just difficult to know exactly who it applies to and how to access it. So, look out for that hub. I think that will be a good way to do it, and others will come up with their own ideas. But Yeah.
What do you think what's the biggest opportunity that you see for New Zealand that was maybe not brave enough to even think was a possibility before this?
Well, you ask the little questions, don't you?
No, I think about, like when you've got resources, you've got connections, you've got influence, you've got power, you've got the network, you've got a Rolodex, and then there's a moment that I don't think will hopefully never happen again in our lifetime, and then you just kind of, I keep thinking about reimagining what that world looks like. I keep going to, I guess ever the optimist. I'm always just hyped on everything. I was like, shit, yeah, positive, mean. But if you were to stop and be like, where's the, because when you can see those waves and you can see these different things that come, it gets you a lot more hopeful to not only think about, but then to think, okay, so if I feel that this is going to happen here, what's that sort of opportunity that I can slip into?
Yeah.
Where you then fit within that new world? When
Yeah.
you look at
Okay.
the new world of New Zealand, where do you see it?
Okay. Well, I'll give it a go. I don't know. I don't know whether it is right or not. But again, our isolation sets us up for some pretty interesting positioning, and also our just the approach that we take to things. I think even the government's approach to this pandemic will be seen on an international stage as pretty refreshing, pragmatic, but kind and supportive. And I think that's the positioning, whether it be through a place to come for tourism once things open up. Again, that people looking to step out of environments that they don't feel that good about. Could be about our products and how we position those into the market. And I think we've been doing a great job of that anyway. But again, that value added, feeling good about the products that you're purchasing, but also just the newer industries such as the digital offerings and how we can bring solutions into the international markets. I think this is a time where New Zealand's brand, I think, will play out extremely positively, and we should continue to build on that without being disingenuous about it. But the world will be watching, and I think that image and the imagery that is around how we respond and who we are will be pretty long lasting. I only look at certain feeds about the Australians talking about the way in which we've responded versus how the government's responded. You look at what's happening in the States, there will be a lot of people that have really turned off, and they will be looking to connect into a brand or a country or an offering. It feels a bit more authentic and is positive and kind and all those things. And they know that the food's good. They know that the country's in good heart. So I think it's without it being a branding exercise, I think that there will be a halo effect that occurs through this.
Totally. You forgot the free education tuition fees in Southland plug, mate.
That's right. Free accommodation now.
Piss off, actually.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a sore spot or point down here, is because they are sort of trying to put all the polytechnics into one model. So it removes or takes away the Southland Institute of Technologies a lot of the points of difference. Well, it's still just great points of difference, but the ability to innovate as they have, and that's a little bit of a sore spot down here. But
got it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a banter for me, you and Tim, to yarn over after a cold beer down the local. Sign me up. And Vince Mega, bro. Dude, I know you're extremely busy, dude, and appreciate your time coming on, Drylie. It's been we get a chat, and even just like a more macro zoom out, because obviously there's practical, tactical, lots of nuts and bolts and zeros and percentages and OCRs and but at a time for the average Kiwi that's just running shit, looking at their world right now, just even knowing that these other things exist, it's just cool little bits of positive breadcrumbs. So I appreciate that you've been able to come on and share some of this with the crew, man. It's been rad yarning, bro. It's awesome.
Yeah, pleasure. Yeah. Ka kiri. Ki kaha.
See you soon, brother.
Okay.
Later,
See
bro.
ya.
Mega, the bro. Drylie, Invis, keeping it real down in Southland, CEO of a SBS bank. Yeah. Cool to think about what those next things will be for how New Zealand plays the world, where the brand Jacinta does it for. A lot of the world's definitely looking at New Zealand already. So if we can just keep that rolling up and keep the leadership in the right way, so that the world knows that we're going to be open for business and smacking it. So yeah, good. I've got a funky feeling we're probably going to end up getting all the CEOs of all the banks, and then I've got two I know I can get to. One I haven't met yet, but I'll get in there. And if there's anyone else you think that you'd love to be able to potentially get interviewed, feel free to reach out, let me know. Or if you're a mutual connective of mine that would potentially, be able to get to someone that can add a bunch of value to everyone else here as well. So we've been lucky enough, we've had some copywriters being able to join the team to go through and actually do up different articles and different learnings and lessons. And so what we're actually planning to do is consolidate a bunch of the live interviews and the content and that in the same way that everyone else is, giving away for free, do the same thing. Because there's a lot of good nuggets that are coming through the long form video stuff, but there's some practical, tactical stuff which are out there as well. And there's a lot of these different platforms coming up to help others. So feel free to, share it around as soon as you find something good to share to others, and appreciate Drylie's time to jump on with us. Awesome team. See you at the next one. Bam.